Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Never comes again, another day like yesterday. Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.
Good morning, Mr. Trump. I was thinking about you the other day and, how it works. And I was thinking about a skill that you have that people don't really understand, which is, for a long time, you've been through some very, very rough and difficult things, very intensely lonely times. Your experiences with your father, with your parents, sometimes seemed impossibly difficult, but they also taught you things. They also woke things up in you that allowed you to see and predict how people behave in ways that they themselves can't seem to predict. And it's kind of lonely and it's kind of frustrating. And with time, not only is it frustrating, but it can become infuriating, because these same people have a very, very exalted opinion of their own ethical impulses and behaviors and instincts. And they're so convinced that they're doing everything for these high-handed moral reasons. And yet at the same time, you can see that folks with whom you interact, people who are multimillionaires, billionaires, politicians with enormous power, et cetera, have manipulated these people over and over and over by simply saying magic words, just saying the right things, just saying, oh, we're going to reduce taxes, or we have to take care of our poor, or like whichever side of the aisle it is. You watch people in power just say a couple of words, and these people who feel morally superior to you will rush to vote for that person, even when the behavior is blindingly obvious that those same people are going to be used and abused and taken advantage of. So, to a certain extent, you value some of the cruelty that you experienced at the hand of your father and in your family, because it woke something up in you. It woke up an instinct that allows you to just see things that are simple and obvious that everybody else seems confused about, because their head is full of these moral beliefs and these ethical beliefs and full of jumping on this team or that team. And you sort of realize there's no team. There's just people serving their own needs. And there's people who are good at it, who see how it works, and there's people who don't. And across your lifespan, you've reached out to other humans and explained what it is you see and what you do. And over and over, when you've done that, people have sneered at you, put you down, called you a narcissist, called you any number of names, to the point where, again, because you don't care about their moral and ethical systems, you don't care about what they think they believe, because you watch them being driven by unconscious processes that they refuse to acknowledge, while they simultaneously accuse you of being driven by those. But for you, you're like, the difference between you and me is I know what I'm behaving in, what I'm in service of. I know that I'm acting in my own interest. Everyone is. So are you. And you look at these people and you begin to realize that all of their moral posturing was in fact built out of fear and submission, and built out of a desire for someone to come along and to make them safe and to take control of their lives and to make their food safe and give them the right to just go shop in a grocery store and just buy stuff that they didn't grow and they don't know where it comes from and they have no idea the chemicals that go into it. And if something goes sideways, and if the FDA gets gamed and some billionaire gets even richer by spraying a cheap alternative that's unhealthy, that their only response is to go, it's your fault, it's not our fault. Like, you're supposed to help us. And you've watched these people weaken themselves decade after decade, while people like yourself got stronger and stronger. And sometimes you will come out and say it. Sometimes you will just say, this is what's happening. And then those same people, even though you're telling the truth, those same people will attack you and vilify you and put you down, while idealizing other politicians, people like the Clintons, who are doing the exact same things, and all of their colleagues are doing the same things, and people on both sides of the aisle are doing the same things. They just say the pretty words, right? They say the abracadabra that settles down the population like an opioid. And so you watch this decade after decade, while people vilified you, attacked you, and insulted you, and it feels like, but I'm the only person who's never pretended that I was doing anything other than what I was doing. And over the years, it's easy to lose more and more respect for this population. At some point, it becomes almost infuriating. It's like watching someone buy a nice brand new bike that they can't afford, and buy a super, super cheap lock and leave it locked up out on the front lawn, and it gets stolen, and you watch it and you're like, okay, there shouldn't be thieves, but you're an idiot, right? That's the process. Okay, there shouldn't be thieves, but you're an idiot. And then it makes you even angrier, because then that person goes to the system that robs them and is like, please help me. The money that you have that comes from all of these other people that are a victim of this system, give me some of that money, replace my bike. And so the system goes, oh yeah, sure, we'll replace your bike. You know, meanwhile, they replace it with something half the value because they stole the other one and they sold it and got richer. And they replace that person's bike, and that person goes out and goes, poor me, I've been through this terrible thing. And then they, well, I can't afford a lock. And then they start leaving it out without a lock, and it gets stolen again. If you watch this process over decades, at some point, especially given your ability to look and just see people's profound motive, and to see, you know that when you make deals and you win deals, or when you, for example, convince the ultra right wing and the evangelicals that you're a Christian, it's like, you know what these people are going to do, right? You watched George Bush do it, right? This cocaine playboy who suddenly became this profound Christian, but who figured out that he could become governor of Texas by accusing Ann Richards of having homosexuals in her cabinet. You don't care about homosexuals or not. You're not that kind of person. You don't care if someone's gay or not. But you watched him, right? This unethical playboy who'd never had to work for anything, figure out how to press the right buttons and go, boom, I'm the president. You watched this, and it made you mad. These people who put their bike out on the front lawn and get it stolen over and over and over, and whine, and the level of their whining and complaining. And you know that the only answer to their problem is that they start going, wait a minute, how do I grow food? How do I figure this out? How do I find some local farmers? How do I go meet somebody? And you know that they're just going to weaken themselves. And you know that the government and all of these corporations just continue to leverage their complaining and leverage their instinct to rely on a government, or to rely on other people, or to rely on people who have been, like, they're not even coming in the night and stealing the bike anymore. They just show up and go, I'm taking this bike because it's my right. And they'll just make up laws and say, well, this is a red bike, and red bikes are against the law, and they're a danger to the public health. And they'll just take the bike, and the person barely protests. Or when they protest, all of the other weak people look at them and go, well, you shouldn't have gotten a red bike. That's you're threatening all of us. And you've watched this process, Mr. Trump. You've watched this process of people 120% in on weakening themselves and attacking one another when the wolf in sheep's clothing has come and bled them out and taken them down over and over, one by one, taken them down. And you've watched, not only did they not defend themselves or stand up for themselves, not only did they not say what's true, which is, wait a minute, you don't get to tell me what color a bike I have, and I might be an idiot for leaving it unlocked, but you're a fucking thief. You've watched for decades, and slowly over time, you lose respect. And then the only way for you to normalize these people is to start almost viewing them like cattle, right? These people are like cattle. Like, it's wild how helpless and how blinded by self-imposed helplessness they seem. And so you watch this, and after a while, it's just like these people attack one another, and they believe anything the government tells them as long as the government says the right words, right? Just say, I'm an evangelical Christian, and I believe in Jesus, and we need to lower taxes, and we need to protect our borders, and just say the magic words, and these morons will do anything you say on both sides, right? All the liberals have to do is say, there's disempowered groups that are being hurt by these horrible right-wing, fundamentalist Christians, and, blah, 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 and they say the right magic words, and suddenly all these people are just really ready to sell out their tax money and to sell out their rights, and they're willing to give up personal rights and personal autonomy and personal responsibility to go, please, government, fix this for me. Or even more silly, they're flying into a rage on the internet and throwing temper tantrums. And you watched this for decades, and at some point in a gut level, just from almost an animal place, it's like it's hard not to hate them. It's hard not to be like, you guys deserve this. You deserve it. Okay? So there's this process that you've been in that no one understands, Mr. Trump. That you've seen what's true about human behavior. You've seen, and you've never lied about what your motivations were or what you were doing. And when you succeed, it's not because you've done some amazingly complex thinking. That's what all of the ethical, moral morons do. They clog their brains up and they spin around and around, and this is right or that's wrong. Well, meanwhile, the government and other systems just take their language and say the right words and then continue doing what they want to serve their own purposes and needs. And they've done this over and over and over, and you watched it, right? And so at some point, it's hard not to hate these people, especially when they turn around and attack you for being the only person who tells the truth about what you're doing. And these people still run to these institutions, these corporations, these systems, these thought systems, these belief systems that have violated them and used them and preyed upon them for decades, for centuries, for millennia. These people still refuse to learn that their only hope is to double down on their own strength, their own autonomy, and their own local communities to strengthen them, to figure out how to get food into them, to figure out how to protect themselves, and understand that no one's coming to save them. Anyone who comes to save them is coming to prey upon them. Anyone who isn't them is coming to prey on them. And you know this is not complex. So at some point it just really pisses you off and you get sick of it. Okay, let's put another background context. You were young, strong libido, and a lot of the juice that kept you up and running in impossibly difficult times when you were doing things where the deal that was being made or things that were going on required that you push harder than other people for longer, with more intensity, that you stand up under attack. Part of what enabled you to do that was a strong libido and a sense of yourself as a man and an operator, someone who succeeds, someone who's powerful and strong with clear vision, who's not afraid to look at things for what they are and how they are. And you had a friend, and that went sideways. Your hatred for those people, and your gut level disgust at how they violate themselves over and over and over, plus the libido, plus being around people like that particular friend, resulted in you interacting with vulnerable young people, children, and ultimately sometimes torturing them, doing things that you know result in decades of them struggling with submissive behaviors, struggling with all kinds of pain, and you've already been through some of that pain and actually survived, right? It's what opened your eyes to how things work. And you did that, right? You participated in those things. And then the landscape shifts and people started looking at those things differently. You started looking at those things differently and realized, I don't know if there's a God or not. I don't know if there's heaven or hell. But by any reasonable definition, on your own assessment, given the things that you've done, if there's a God and there's a hell, you're going to hell. You're not going to. You know that. And your ability to know that is also part of that strength, of that ability to just look at things as they are, to see how people behave no matter what they say, no matter how much moral posturing the American public does, or this religious figure, blah, 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 blah. You've watched the human-animal behaviors, and that allows you to look at your own and to go, I know what this is. I know what I did. And I know that when I die, either there's nothing left, that's it, it's the end of everything, or if there is a God and that God sends people to hell, I'm going to hell. And you know there's no way to really wrap your brain around that. It bothers you sometimes. Sometimes you think it's all bullshit. It's like religion sounds like something made up again by weak people who wanted to have a thought system, a belief system that they could manipulate other people into not being mean to them, right? It's a way for poor people to protect themselves or to assuage their own low self-confidence and their own low self-esteem by saying, well, if other people kick the shit out of me now because I can't stand up for myself, then God's going to send me to heaven and send them to hell. So you look at that and you go, yeah, that might be true. That might be what's going on. But there's also a part of you that's very realistic about human nature that goes, yeah, maybe I might be going to hell. And at this point, this population has just made you sick. Like you can't stand to watch anymore. So at some point you said, fuck it. I'm riding this thing out. I'm going big, man. Maybe the libido isn't there anymore. you're not willing to violate women or children anymore the way you used to. Maybe it's not fun anymore. Maybe there is some developing feeling of like, I can't handle, like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That isn't dependent on what other people think, that you're like, yeah, it's not fun. But you need to do something. And so you went for it, you know? And there's a big part of you that kind of wishes that when you go for it, it's kind of like someone who's a strong fighter and knows how to bully people and position people, but it's also lonely. And at some point you wish people would stand up and call you out on your bullshit. Not throw temper tantrums on the internet and go, you're a fucking asshole, you're evil, you're a piece of shit. But not that, because you know that comes from that weakness. Again, that person is posturing, hoping that someone else will be strong and come stop you. But you kind of wish that people would actually, there's part of you that like you would feel better if people actually stood up. It would be a more enjoyable environment for you. You would have people that you could relate to, that you respected, instead of just these bleeding sheep referring to moral beliefs and systems as a cover for the fact that they're weak and they won't stand up for themselves. And at this point, you're like, what's to lose? Really? What is there to lose, right, Mr. Joe? Like, what is there to lose? You're going to hell if that's a thing. And maybe that isn't. And you've already committed to a life that's developed into this thing in which you have raped and coerced and taken advantage of people. And you know that totally innocent people and children have been hurt in this. You know, they're not the ones you hate. You don't hate children, but their parents. Like at some point you realized that you'd signed off on hurting children because you hated their parents so much. And there's some part of you that's like, yeah, that's probably not good. That's probably, I mean, it's their parents' fault. It's like the children or the bike that gets left on the front lawn by these parents who are idiots who think the government's going to protect them and their kids. So at some point it's like, fuck it. I'm riding this thing out. I'm going to see how stupid these people are. And so you played to that ultra sort of mindless reactionary right wing that as long as you say Jesus and reduce taxes and the left is evil and stop immigration, as long as you say that, they're all in, and they're way more motivated than the left. The ultra left makes all kinds of noise. Like they like to get on the internet and whine and kvetch and piss and moan and call names, but they're not motivated the way the ultra right wing is. The ultra right wing gets quiet and votes and will manipulate and will do whatever the fuck it takes because they have a religious belief that this is the way it ought to go. Right? And in the midst of all this, it's like, you really look at people who revolutionized, you know, you look at Putin and you look at, you know, Hitler and you look at Pol Pot, you look at some of those people and it's like, they did something, man. I mean, you can hate them, but boy, did they do something. And you realize you can leverage immigration. You can sit there right in these people's faces, right? The right wing, you can just sit there right in their faces and take away the rights. You can literally flip them on gun control. You can flip them on taking away civil rights right in front of them. You can leverage a police force. You can teach that police force to go out and to bully and brutalize right in front of this same population. So now you're just walking up, and if someone comes out and goes, "Don't steal my bike," You've taught this police force to punch him in the face, kick him in the nuts, and go, you don't have a right to this bike. This bike's mine. This bike belongs to Mr. Donald J. Trump. Go fuck yourself. Like, you can, like, if you're going to ride this thing out and just totally commit, whoa, dude, what a commitment, right? And they keep doubling down, and you're like, how far, fuck it, I'm going to hell anyway. Like, how far can this go? It's not like they're going to send, there's not like there's different hells, and there may not be a hell at all. Like, how far will these people let me go? I'm doing it right in front of their faces. Literally, the right-wing platform, I have violated every precept. And they're like, yes, Donald Trump, yes, yes. And the left wing, who has spent decades name-calling, insulting, moral posturing on the internet and not actually doing anything, and then voting for people, for Democrats who have caved to the right wing every time, because anyone who's like you, who sees human behavior, knows that someone has leverage on those people. They would follow through. They would vote against funding ICE. They would. But you've got leverage on them because they've raped children and they've violated and they've lied just as much as you have. And they've caved over and over. So then there's the left wing doing the same fucking thing. And the whole population makes you sick. How could people be this stupid? You look at them and it's like, fuck. At some point, like, you're giving me your bike. And so you keep committing, like, fuck it, why not? You keep committing to it, right? You can murder people. Like, you said that in the first, your first run, something about you could shoot somebody in the head on Fifth Avenue and people would say they deserved it. I don't remember the exact quote, but I understand the meaning, right? And now you're doing it. Not just, like, you're doing it. And there's still a bunch of politicians arguing the evidence, right, over the execution of the murder of Preddy. Like, it's murder. You literally created a police force that can go and murder people in broad daylight. They can instigate a physical confrontation, escalate it, disarm someone and shoot them in the back while they're laying face down on the ground. And even the left wing and even people who disagree with you will still sit there and debate the evidence, right? And you're like, oh my God. It's kind of boring and depressing, right? Like, there's literally no end to the waffling and, right? Because one of the moves that you've used so wisely for so long is that you do what you need to do. You do what serves you right in front of people's faces, and then you press those verbal buttons. You make it about carrying a weapon, not carrying a weapon. You make it about abortion, not abortion. You make it about immigration, not immigration. You make it about race. Well, you don't give a shit what they argue about. Then that whole population sits there and debates it. It doesn't matter which side. The fact that they're debating it means you just had someone murdered in broad daylight. Exactly what you said you were going to do. And no one says it. Or the people who say it are throwing these massive temper tantrums and flying into a left-wing rage and blah, blah. And so then all you have to do is go, well, see, Trump derangement syndrome, and it plays right into, it's skillfully played, sir. Skillfully played. It's good, man. I have to take back something I said. I said that it's so simple that it almost makes you mad. But your ability to see the layers and to direct people's attention into things that will trap them in these debates, this is a real skill, man. It's an instinct combined with a conscious intellectual skill. That is a not insignificant skill. And no one ever attributes you with it. They're just like, they're busy calling you a liar, a piece of shit, you know, a pedophile. But they're just name calling. And you're like, psychological jujitsu. Name calling is you just opening up your guard or giving me side control or giving up your arm. I'll just go in the arm bar. I just do the same thing that I've been doing, and you've been watching me do it. You've been watching these other people do it who at least pretend to lie, and as long as they pretend to lie, they keep listening. So you're like, fuck. What? People can, I'm Donald J. Trump, people can accuse me of the depths of depravity and dishonesty and lying and narcissism, and yet the depths of their willingness to lie to themselves is easily equal to anything they accuse me of. Sometimes the only way you feel you can relate to these people is to go, the one way we relate to one another is we're both inestimably full of shit. The difference is I'm getting what I want. And I'm not even lying about it. So in a weird way, I'm more moral than you are. Because you will sit there and lie to yourself about what these predators are doing to you, as long as they say some magic words, because that makes you feel safe. So you refuse to acknowledge that you have given up your autonomy. You've given up the responsibility of self-control. You've given up the responsibility of self-protection. You've given up the responsibility of knowing what your food is and where it comes from and how it gets there, and building a community where you can source that food yourself and you have control, and you've bent over and over in front of all of these corporations and all these processes and going, oh, please, daddy government, make me safe, make me safe. And so when I, Donald J. Trump, come along and fuck you in the ass, I kind of don't feel bad anymore. That is the only way we feel connected, is we're both unalterably full of shit, except I'm not. I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. I'm doing it right in front of your face. I'm interacting, taking a playbook from Putin. I'm taking a playbook from Hitler, but I'm also doing it in a way that's incredibly skilled and aware of the American population and exactly how they think and move. I mean, this is what I told Putin. I know these people. I know how it works. I know what they think. I know what buttons to push. Right? People have dirt on me, but I've got dirt on all of them, and I'm not lying about it. So have dirt on me. I don't give a shit. Right? It's wild. You're having a wild, wild life. And no one can lie. Moral, immoral, hurt people, didn't hurt people, good person. Well, like, people can name call all they want, but the fact is that you've doubled and tripled down and created a wild life. Wildly successful TV shows, businesses, billions of dollars, you know, just parties of debauchery, women after women. I mean, if you want to talk about succeeding at something, you appealed to the ultra right wing and the evangelicals and convinced them that you're a Christian while living a life of debauchery and divorcing woman after woman and cheating on all of them. Like, part of you is just like, you just hand it to me. Like, what do you want me to do? Do you, like, you know who I am? You know what, I've never lied about who or what I am. What the fuck? Like, what do you want me to do? I'm riding this thing out. I'm taking it. Look, I'm probably going to hell. I'm taking this thing. This is going to be the biggest blowout in human history. Not to mention the fact that I've already been apprised of the fact that we are aware that there are alien species involved with us, and that we're coming close to the point that that's going to be made known. And if I have to take the behavior of the human race thus far, they act like a bunch of idiots who are weak and mealy-mouthed and act morally superior, but actually are morally inferior because they're not honest about why they do anything. And I have to predict that they're going to implode and it's going to be a mess. I might position myself to be the person who's in control of the entire globe when this happens, that if these beings come and negotiate, they're going to negotiate with me. I'm the one in control of all of it. Or maybe me and Putin and somebody else. Like, whatever. Like, who cares? Why shouldn't I go for the win? And nobody sees this about you, Mr. Trump. Nobody gets it. Nobody gets the subtlety of the game that starts with blindingly obvious human motivations. The general population just, I want to be safe. I want to be safe. Make the decision for me. Figure it out. Blah, blah. Like, I don't have enough money. Okay, I vote for Democrats. Oh, I'm afraid my country's being taken over by brown people. Okay, I vote for the Republicans. Like, the stupid idiocy of it. And it's these people, and I can ride this out and just go take it all the way, baby. Like, come on. History's going to look back. This might be the biggest thing that's ever happened in human history, ever. Ever. There may never be anything like Donald J. Trump. There may never be anything like Donald J. Trump. I saw history. I understand how humans work. I understand how the American population works. I've seen the gross human motivations, but I've also worked with it at a very subtle level. Any messaging that comes out of either side, I know exactly how to play it. And I just keep them arguing over this silly ass shit while all the resources and all their rights are being accumulated by a select few. And in fact, I'm the only person who's accumulating them with any instinct at all to tell them the truth of what's happening, or any instinct to turn around and let it help them a little bit. Like the other people, they're pretending that they're doing all these things to help, but they're completely self-serving and setting themselves up to be safe if the world collapses. Right? Here's Donald J. Trump. You know, Mr. Trump, I know that what you're doing at least gives a human population a chance to go, oh shit. For millennia, there have been people who have been preparing for this entire thing to collapse because they know that ice ages happen. They know that there's alien interaction in our governments. They know that collapse is super easy to happen, and then it routinely happens in human history. They're not idiots. It's only the general population that's an idiot. They know this happens, and I, Donald J. Trump, have been watching these people accumulate resources such that they will be the ones and their children will be the ones to survive it, building massive underground bunkers and cities and, you know, whatever. So now I'm doing the same thing, but I'm at least not lying about it. And everyone makes me the most evil At some point, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. I don't care what you say. You might temporarily piss me off sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it hurts my feelings, but it's so boring and repetitive that you do the same things over and over and over. So I'm going for it. I'm taking it all the way. If I can gain control of the U.S. and the military might of the U.S. and the wealth of the U.S., which, by the way, is almost gone, and I can leverage that over China, Russia, Iran, whatever, if I need to be in cahoots with Israel, whatever it is, and then I'm the one who's in control, look what I did. If I'm the point man when this all blows up, you're going to turn around because you are who you are, and once I'm the one providing safety, and I'm the one, you will worship me. After this whole thing blows up, which I'm totally okay with happening, the people who are left will worship me. They will worship me more than the ultra right wing and the evangelicals worship me now. They will worship me, and you can't see it coming. And the people who hate me, I'm laughing in your face right now because they will worship me. I will be worshiped. I will be seen in history as a misunderstood genius who knew the entire system was going to collapse under the weight of all the lies and corruption and predation of this government, including the Democrats. In fact, sometimes more from the Democrats. I'm going to be seen as the person who was honest about it, who ushered in, who actually helped the human race evolve across this massive collapse and crisis that's coming. The people originally were like, he's causing it, and they don't know. I'm actually setting us up for some of us to survive it. And the people who survive it will worship me. Donald J. Trump. Okay, Mr. Trump. There's some things that you don't see. You don't know. That create miscalculations for people like yourself who get used to predicting human behaviors and seeing those behaviors and just being bored, senseless, that they never alter. And go look back in history. What happens in history is intermixed with all those idiots who you just say magic words and they'll believe anything that you say. You can act exactly counter to what you're standing up for, and they don't care as long as you say the magic words. As long as you say, save the immigrants and, save the environment. They don't give a shit. You can destroy the environment right in front of their faces. They don't care. Right? And on both sides. Intermixed with all of those people who are so unconscious that all they want to hear is the right words and they just go back to sleep, are people who have always seen and known the same thing that you see and know. So all the voices that you're manipulating and using that sooner or later comes to seem like it's everything that there is, mixed in, there are actually people who are awake. And there are more and more of those people now. And those people are not weak and have never been weak. They have been manipulated because they're busy, they're tired, they're raising kids, and they do saddle themselves with these moral systems, these religious systems, these ethical systems that are enormous weight on them, that make them feel that they must be kind to their enemy, they must extend respect, so it weighs them down. But your miscalculation is, it's the same miscalculation that Saddam Hussein had, that Hitler had, right? that folks like yourself who have this vision, who can see this basic animal behavior from people, and you become an incredibly skilled genius at using it to manipulate in subtle ways, is you always underestimate the number of people who are awake, who are not pushing back because they're weighted down by their ethical system, and they're weighted down by their day-to-day lives because they have not made the moves that you made. They have not been willing to violate people's rights in order to accrue billions of dollars and to accrue power. But if you would allow me to humbly advise you, Mr. Trump, this is the same mistake that folks like yourself make throughout history, is you underestimate the enormous number of people who are awake, who are strong people. They're not powerful people, but they're strong people who are woven in and out of all of those idiots. Those idiots are always a minority. They're easy to manipulate, and they're way more motivated than the rest of the people who are weighted down by their ethical complexities and by their day-to-day life and taking care of their kids and, right, their unwillingness to break a few eggs. But there's actually an enormous number of those people, and there are more and more of those people every day. And they're not flaming on the internet, and they're not raging at you. They're not name calling. They're awake, and they're watching this and going, okay. And what happens, Mr. Trump, is once you've surpassed their obligation to remain within a certain ethical framework, and they realize, oh, this is all fucked. There's nothing to talk about. Folks like yourself are always shocked when there's a sudden, violent, explosive, powerful uprising. And I'm not threatening violence. I'm not saying, I didn't serve in the military. I don't know anything about that. But whatever form it takes is massive and powerful, and it's the thing that folks like yourself are never able to factor in because you've watched for so long this other system. And so you keep pushing and keep pushing, right? And who knows? You might have 20 years left on your life. You might have 20 weeks. Nobody knows. Same for me. I'm not threatening you or trying to insult you. I might die tonight, right? Then nobody knows. I'm not recommending that you appeal to or begin using any ethical system that I might believe in or whatever. That I'm not doing what these other people are doing and going, you're a bad person and you'll find out and you better start being a good boy. You're way past that, man. You already know you're going to hell if there is one. Moral threats, again, these people are idiots. Look, you're not going to make a moral threat to somebody who's accepted that they're going to hell, or else there isn't one and they're not worried about it. It's more of that childish stupidity of those people. If you want to really go big, my recommendation would be start being honest with those people. The real power and the real strength of any population is those people who don't show up until everything is crumbling, when their children are in danger. And our children are in danger now. Our families are in danger. Our food systems are in danger. There are a lot of us who see this and who know it's not just the Republicans, it's the whole fucking system. There's way more of us than you think. And this is the game, right? This is the game you're playing. If you really wanted to be the exception, instead of being Hitler who ends up having to kill himself or whatever, instead of flaming out, if you really wanted to usher us across this threshold that you know is coming, and we know it's coming, and we know you didn't create it. We know you've leveraged it sometimes. We know you've operated within it, right? There's a certain genius in your human animal ability to have an instinct for how these things are moving. And also a lot of it's blindingly obvious. You know it's coming. You could be the guy who starts talking to those of us who also know what this is and know that you didn't create it and it wasn't right, that our government has been coring out our financial system for decades. They've been printing money for decades, and they're desperate now because we're near collapse and they know it. Rather than you raping and pillaging and destroying the strength and power that's been interspersed amongst these idiots, because you're so angry and so sick of the idiocy, if you could deepen your subtlety and recognize that power is there, that strength is there. These are not idiots who are going to throw a temper tantrum because you're a Republican or a Democrat or blah. These are just people who, like, we know that our government and our financial system has been utterly cored out and is completely owned. We know that. And we know that there cannot be a reset without complete collapse. We know that. We know it's collapsing. And we know that you're in this position to either benefit from the collapse, to protect your own family, to protect people that you enjoy interacting with, or to make the biggest, most epic move ever made in human history. You could access us and you'd be shocked at how much fiber, how deeply rooted, and how strong the majority is interspersed amongst these morons that you can't stand. And I know you've hated us, and I know we've behaved in ways that maybe we deserve hatred, and you know that you've behaved in ways that you deserve hatred. But at this point, who gives a shit? We could do something epic. We could do something epic. So, Mr. Donald J. Trump, it's just a thought, man. All right, man. Have a good week. Talk to you again if I have something to say. Take care.
Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.